It's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and our in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And this is CarEdge Live for Monday, September 15th, payday for a lot of folks out there, me included. It's so good to be home at the shore with my new sliding glass doors, but nobody cares about that. Zach, how are you today, handsome, planning that trip to climb Mount Kilimanjaro behind you or whatever the hell that is?
I'm doing pretty good, Pops. Happy Monday, September 15th. Glad everyone's here with us. Today's show, folks, brought to you by CarEdge.com. We do have a sponsor. We'll talk about our friends over at Delete Me in a little bit. But if you want to buy a car without the headache, check it out back at CarEdge.com. We appreciate everyone who continues to support us. Thanks. And a huge shout out to Automotive News, the resource that we refer to all the time. Car shoppers can get their own AI agent to help negotiate a deal. There's a nice interview that they did with me last week that's now in Automotive News. So this is really cool, Dad. Look at us getting all sorts of press on our AI agent that helps customers get a better deal when they buy a car. So incredible to see. So thank you to Automotive News for sharing our story.
Absolutely. The industry publication taking a shot and sharing some information, well, that isn't necessarily considered by the industry the best possible thing because, well, it empowers consumers. And, well,
I disagree with you, Dad. I don't think the industry is anti-empowering consumers, but that's not the purpose of today's show. The purpose of today's show is to talk about how Stellantis,
yes,
Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, they're not selling anything. And so they just made this huge change. Now, if you remember last week, Dad, we got the latest and greatest day supply of inventory broken down by brand. And that's what you're looking at here on your screen. August day supply of inventory by brand sat at 77 days for the entire auto industry. However,
yes,
to the far right of our screen here, Jeep, Chrysler, and Ram, Dodge is just over here, all have 117, 118, or 136 days supply of inventory. So we get this big news story this morning. Stellantis alters EV plans, preps Hemi resurgence. What's going on? What's the big, huge change over at CDJR?
Well, apparently they believe that there's an EV future. It just might not happen in the United States of America anytime soon. and for all you EV lovers out there and supporters out there who continually say, you know, EVs are the future. You have to get used to it. Well, apparently, there's a large percentage of the buying population out there that doesn't necessarily agree with that and doesn't necessarily want an EV. And sometimes, I mean, I know this is going to sound silly to say, but sometimes manufacturers should listen to what it is that their customers want and build what they want, as opposed to building what the manufacturer wants and forcing it down the customer's throats. So with that being said, Stellantis has looked at a lot of its product and decided, guess what? We're not going to be an all-electric company by the end of the decade. We might not be an all-electric company by the middle of 2030s. You know, the American consumer has spoken. They still want gasoline-powered vehicles. They want Hemi engines. So we're going to give them to them.
It certainly seems that way, Pops. And Ram also, they canceled the production of their electric pickup trucks. That was a big story as well. And really what's going on here, I'll put back up on the screen. They're bringing back the 5.7-liter Hemi as an option for the Ram 1500. And Jeep has said those Hemis are going to come back as well. So if you look at this story over the past couple of years, it was raise prices, use those additional profits to offset the expense of producing these EVs. Well, now it seems like Ram, Dodge, Jeep, and Chrysler are all flipping the switch back and saying, you know what? Let's just use the old, trusty, reliable powertrains that we have. Maybe try and bring prices down a little bit as well to try and sell these vehicles. We know a lot of CDJR products are selling significantly below their MSRP, and let's give up on our EV ambitions. And it's not only these automakers, or this particular automaker, Stellantis. We have some news from Tesla this morning as well. Rivian flagging some concerns, General Motors, pretty much all the automakers, Dad, heading into October are concerned about what their EV future looks like. But I think for Ram, Dodge, Jeep, and Chrysler to push back into all these Hemi engines, that's a big change for them, especially from how they had been talking, and could signal this like the path to success that they've wanted for so long.
Well, I think so many of the manufacturers, when I say so many, I can think of just about all of them other than perhaps Toyota. Bought into the concept that EV is the future and the future is now. And EV very well might be the future. Battery electric vehicles very well might be the future. But that future is not now, at least not in the United States. And yes, I know that Stellantis is a global company. Ford is a global company. General Motors is a global company. But in the case of Ford and General Motors, those are American companies, and their biggest market that they have to satisfy is the U.S. market. And if their customers in this country have said loudly and clearly, we don't want a battery electric vehicle, we are not interested in that to the same degree that perhaps maybe they are in Europe or China, but we are not Europe or China. We know what we want, and what we want are gasoline or diesel powered vehicles, and we want our big engines. And we'll scream about gas mileage and everything else when gas gets back up to $5 and $6 a gallon. And until then, we're like sticks in the mud, in the sense that we're just not going to move in the direction that you thought we should move, without having convinced us that that's the direction we should move.
And so it's pretty interesting. Again, the big news from CDJR is they're going back all in on Hemi engines. And I think that'll end up playing out really well for the manufacturer. They spent a long time saying, hey, we're going EV, but they went significantly less electric vehicle than some of their peers, although Jeep would maybe be the exception to that. But now they're going back on the Hemis, and I think that could spur some good news for Stellantis.
You can look at sales. And with Dodge saying, or with Ram saying, we're just going to cancel the electric EV. Electric pickup trucks do not sell particularly well.
No.
And the biggest one that doesn't sell particularly well is the one that was supposed to take over the world, which was the Cybertruck from Tesla. Where everybody was thinking they're going to sell 250,000 to 500,000 of those vehicles a year. According to registrations in the United States, since Tesla doesn't report sales by country or model necessarily, there's been under 16,000 Cybertrucks sold and registered in this country this year. It is not a popular pickup truck because it's an electric pickup truck. The electric Chevrolet pickup trucks are not selling particularly well. The electric GMC pickup trucks aren't selling particularly well. The Ford Lightning doesn't sell particularly well. So what we have found out is, in many cases, the vehicles that manufacturers wanted to push are not the vehicles that the people want to buy. It's like kind of crazy, but just give the people what they want. Let them buy what they want, not what you want.
We're going to talk about our sponsor, Delete Me, in a moment, but it is interesting, Dad. We have the latest and greatest, slowest and fastest selling cars for September 2025. And even though tax credits end soon, you can still see here on the list, the Sierra EV is one of your slowest selling, top 10 slowest selling pickup trucks. That's bad news for Chevrolet, because if there was ever a time to be liquidating your EV pickup trucks, it would be when the federal government is giving customers a $7,500 subsidy. But no, the Sierra EV is still on this list. If I go to fastest sellers, however, F-150 Lightning, Silverado EV, you got some, at least some electric vehicles are now your fastest selling EV pickup trucks, because, well, obviously we're going to lose those tax credits. Let's continue the conversation, but before we do, we got to thank our friends over at Delete Me. Now, Dad, you and I both know that there are data brokers out there selling our information online, and anyone can buy it. Things like our phone number, social security number, home address, and so much more are sold online every single day. They're available to marketers, scammers, and those elusive folks in between. Now, Delete Me, the sponsor of today's program, helps you take control over your data. Delete Me, Dad removes your personal information from hundreds of data brokers on your behalf. And you can get started today with a 20% off coupon code. Just use the code CarEdge at checkout or click the link in the top of the description. Now, folks, my dad and I have both been using Delete Me for over a year. We stand by them. We appreciate what they do, and we encourage you to take a peek at it. Okay, so you were saying just a moment ago, all these electric pickup trucks, Cybertruck obviously an issue, Rivian's running into issues left and right. Ford, Dad, interestingly, they are struggling to sell their EVs as well. We've seen that. Ram, Chevrolet, it's kind of across the entire spectrum we are seeing these issues. Do you think we'll see more headlines like what we're seeing here from Stellantis, going back to Hemi engines? Do you think we'll see more headlines like that from these other automakers as well?
Well, I think you're already seeing a pivot towards that. At GM, they've pivoted towards hybrids and the continuation of ICE vehicles. So I think we will continue to see that. When the Tesla Cybertruck, for instance, when it was first announced in 2019, it was announced that this was going to be a battery electric pickup truck that was going to start at $39,900. Okay. Tesla has stopped taking orders or making the base Cybertruck available. It's, as of September 12th, it is no longer available to be ordered.
Yep.
That base truck, their base truck, is over $72,000. It is so far from the $39,900 that it was supposed to be. So today, the least expensive Cybertruck, for those of you who want to have one of those, is over $82,000. I'm trying to think of the right word. These are the most ridiculously priced pickup trucks in the history of pickup trucks. I mean, pickup trucks used to be for work and stuff. And they weren't supposed to cost 80 some grand. That's not where it's supposed to start. And because these pickup trucks, whether it be the GM products or the Chevy products or the Ford Lightning or what, they are all so damn expensive that so many people are just looking at them and saying, no, not interested. And I know that, in the global scheme of things, that everybody believes EVs are where everything's going to end up. It's inevitable. That I read that. I read the comments. I see it. It's inevitable. Is it? Is it really inevitable? Or is there another fuel source of some kind that might supplant that? So
it's gas, Dad. That's why we're seeing, that's the big news this morning with Ram, Dodge, Jeep, and Chrysler. It's gas. They're going back to Hemi engines. Don't be surprised if you see other automakers do the same. Now,
we are doing the same. And
exactly.
More and more are going to hybrids. It seems as if, at least for United States or North American consumption, that they are returning more towards their roots.
Absolutely. Now, another story that we have to have our eyes on, 1/5 of suppliers topple into financial distress as pessimism grows in the auto industry. I don't know if you had a chance to read this article, Pop.
I did not.
I mean, let's go through it. Key takeaways. Suppliers are delaying investments and cutting jobs amid a worsening sentiment for the auto industry. Tariffs could increase the number of distressed suppliers. Automakers are increasing financial monitoring of tier 1 to tier 3 suppliers. This is so interesting, Dad. An analysis of the automotive supply chain by financial analytics firm Rapid Ratings found that 1 in 5 automotive suppliers were already in financial distress before the impact of tariffs began to be felt. It also found that tariffs, as they stand, could lead to a 23% increase in the number of distressed suppliers. Ever since the pandemic, Dad, suppliers for these automakers have been struggling significantly. And it seems like a mixture of, we thought we were going to go towards electric vehicles, which obviously now these manufacturers are walking back, and tariffs. We're looking at a world where not only are the automakers and car dealers in trouble, the suppliers are also struggling to make ends meet.
Well, for business, and I think you know this because, well, you run one. Um, um, having a better understanding of what the future might hold is what allows you to make decisions for the future for a
Yeah.
business. And it is the most uncertain of times when it comes for many businesses in the transportation sector right now. Um, the push towards EVs that everybody bought into the beginning of the 2020s. The pivot away from many of the EVs as we've come into the middle of the 2020s. The advent of tariffs. So from one day to the next, it is very difficult for businesses to even begin to understand what their cost structures might be
Sure.
when it comes to producing whatever it is that they're producing. And so, yeah, that puts stress on a business. So, how do you deal with that? How can you plan not even deeply into the future when things are changing every 20, 30, 40 days? So it's very, very difficult for these suppliers, especially when one year they're getting signals from the manufacturers, okay, we're developing EVs. Then they're pivoting, and so we're not, and so now you're not. And it's like, if the only thing in flux that I ever remember being good was the flux capacitor in Back to the Future. But in business, when you're in flux, it's not a good thing.
No, and it seems like, again, we see this show up at the dealership level. Last week, Tricolor Automotive, the seventh largest independent used car dealer, went bankrupt. We see it at the automaker level. Go look at the slowest selling cars list for September 2025. Volkswagen's in a bit of a pickle, and Stellantis, the company that we covered at the beginning of this show, moving back to Hemi engines, they're in a pickle. We've talked about Nissan closing down manufacturing plants globally.
Yeah.
And then, Dad, it's at the supplier level as well. We could read through that whole article, but the too long didn't read is very clearly there are hundreds of automotive suppliers that are in flux, like you just said, and in financial distress, and ultimately anticipate seeing their costs go up significantly, which then will be passed along to the automakers, which then will be passed along to customers. So really shaky foundation and a shaky footing for the auto industry right now.
And in many cases for those suppliers, the manufacturers who they have contracts with will fight them on the
Price
cost increases.
Yeah.
And it's not as if the manufacturers don't know what these suppliers are facing in the way of tariffs and everything else. They do know because they're facing it themselves, but they are not necessarily particularly compassionate to those who might be providing them with the various parts that they need for their vehicles. So it's really a slippery slope for all involved. And it would be nice if the suppliers and the manufacturers could figure out how to play nice with each other.
I wonder, Dad, we talk about consolidation at the automaker level. I bet you there's going to be a bunch of consolidation, both horizontally and vertically at the supplier level, meaning like multiple suppliers merging into one, and then vertically meaning, all right, General Motors buying up suppliers. I'd be very, very curious to see if there's consolidation in both directions.
Isn't that what Toyota has done? They own or have a major financial stake in many of their major suppliers in Japan.
And if you think about it, there's an affordability crisis, and we know that turning these automakers ships is like incredibly slow because they're massive. But the two stories we've talked about so far today, suppliers having all sorts of financial distress, and then powertrains going back to Hemi engines, I think that's actually a recipe for success on the affordability side. If you can consolidate your supply chain, there's fewer hands in the mix trying to mark things up. So that's a potential benefit. And then obviously the powertrain conversation. These engines that we've had for decades are more reliable. They're cheaper to produce. So there's lots of potential benefits here. It's just going to take a while, I think, for customers to see that. For our audience who doesn't care about the nitty gritty so much of the auto industry, how's this going to show up in my car payment? I don't think it shows up in your car payment until like 2030, maybe sooner, maybe 2028, 2029. But at least we're starting to see some signs of like, okay, we're going back to things that might make stuff cheaper.
Well, and the other thing that's going to help with that is the relaxation of the CAFE standards that the EPA had placed on manufacturers, and the abandonment of fines for not hitting those CAFE standards. So if
Cafe standards being the emissions standards. So there's been a
well,
loosening
being
on emissions. Yeah.
and gas mileage
And gas
standards,
mileage. Yep.
fleet gas mileage standards. So if in the past, if you did not hit the minimum standards that had been set by the government, there could be hundreds of millions of dollars that the manufacturer had to pay in fines for not hitting those standards. Those fines will be done with. They are no longer, the government is no longer going to enforce those standards. Actually, they're looking at relaxing many of the standards. So by relaxing those standards, it would allow many of the manufacturers, and Stellantis could be one of them, to take advantage of utilizing older technologies that we know that work well, that might not be as fuel efficient or emission efficient as some of the newer things, but that part is unimportant at the moment. So if we can go back to more tried and true um, manufacturing standards for these engines and stuff, it could become cheaper. And God knows we need less expensive vehicles. We need the average transaction price not to be approaching $50,000.
So let's talk about cheaper vehicles. Used cars. All right, let's get a little bit of a used car market update. Used vehicle inventory sets new high for 2025. However, sales continue to grow. 2.21 million unsold used cars on dealer lots, 43 days supply. There you go. The average listing price, the average selling price for a used car in today's market, $25,393. Average mileage continues to tick up. We're at 72,557 miles on those used cars for sale.
The mileage, the average used car mileage today. I mean, when I started in the industry, during the Flintstone era, we pretty much thought a car was used up as it was approaching 100,000 miles. So to see 72,000 miles as the average mileage on a used car today, I mean, when I started, that would have been, oh my God, where are we going with that? Today, it's just, that's standard, that's normal. I'm not sure I would. Maybe it's just me, maybe because I've worked in new car dealerships for so many years, but I'm not sure I'd be comfortable owning a car with 72,000 miles when I first get it, because I'm just going to begin to wonder what all's going to go wrong over the next 70,000 miles.
Yeah. We know the quality of used cars is not particularly strong right now. And then add on to that the fact that they have more miles on the vehicles. Not a good mix. Now we got some charts down here. So the available supply, it's a little hard to see. It's the dark blue line. It's right there. So we have the highest available supply that we've had in a few months, but then you can see here days supply, also the dark blue line over here. It's still the lowest it's been over the past 4 years. So it's not like you're talking about affordability when it comes to new cars. It's not like there's a lot of wiggle room on used car pricing right now because the days supply just isn't that high.
Well, and the day supply will remain relatively low because of the quality of the cars is a lower quality than it's been for years. And we don't have a lot of 1, 2, and 3-year-old low mileage, good quality used cars coming into the market because of, well, the 10 to 15 million new vehicles that were supposed to have been built during the pandemic that weren't built. So it's still impacting used car availability. And as I have said and started saying, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I think this will be an ongoing used car crisis to a degree. Absolutely. Through the end of the decade. So we're going to continue to struggle with higher mileage, lower quality used cars that are being offered for sale for the foreseeable future. And when you combine that higher mileage, lower quality cars with longer loan terms, it for many people will just be the absolute recipe for disaster.
Yeah, completely agree, Dad. Well, let's come here earlier in the show from Mark. Thank you for this, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Elon Musk shocks the car market, buys $1 billion in Tesla stock. I don't have too much to comment on this one, but yeah, obviously this was a big news story this morning. I guess when your company's worth $1 trillion, what's $1 billion?
Well, it's an interesting news story in the sense that his potential future pay, potential earnings through stock options and everything are set on hitting rather high objectives for the company. By him buying $1 billion worth of Tesla stock on the open market signals to investors out there that he believes that he can hit those objectives that have been set for him. But if you look at the value of the stock, it could be one of the greatest pump and dumps in the history of mankind, because the stock is up, I don't know, $20, $30 a share since he did that. So I'm not real good with math, but if it's up like $30 a share and you bought $1 billion worth of stock, I mean, he could just make another fortune today and then just laugh at everybody. I mean, I don't know, but it is a completely different scenario than, say, when Mary Barra, from the head of the CEO of GM, was busy selling her stock.
Yeah,
because that signals that, well, maybe she knows what the future holds for GM. And with Elon saying, you know what, well, I'm going to buy $1 billion worth of, wouldn't it be nice to be in a position to just say, you know, I got 100 and some billion. What's $1 billion? Let's buy $1 billion worth of stock. But it signals to investors out there that he believes strongly in the business.
I think it's a non-story, but that's just my 2 cents. We shall see. And obviously, I want to be very clear, no financial advice here, folks, aside from trying to help you buy a car. So we have no clue what we're talking about when it comes to, well, I'll speak for myself. I have no clue what I'm talking about when it comes to stock prices and things like that. So, your mileage may vary. Also, earlier in the show, Dad, JC, I'm getting AI-generated calls and texts from dealers I made inquiries to. I'm not a fan. Okay, so that cues up the article that we had in Automotive News that talks about CarEdge's AI agent.
Yes.
Car shoppers can get their own AI agent to help negotiate a deal. CarEdge.com/AI, folks. You can learn more about this. I don't know, Dad. This is what we do on our show. We read automotive news articles and comment on them. You want to read this and we'll comment on it?
Well, you're a much better reader than I am. I'm a wonderful commenter.
Okay, so I'll read you comment. Here we go. Car shopping customers can start using an AI agent to negotiate on their behalf for a monthly fee. Dealerships are exploring how to use AI agents or artificial intelligence to improve customer service on their websites. CarEdge is a startup that believes customers are entitled to the same technology tool. The company rolled out its AI Negotiator app on July 17th. Consumers pay $40 to use it for a month. More than 2,000 have done so since the app's debut. CarEdge CEO Zach Shefska and his father, Ray Shefska, a veteran dealership sales manager, launched CarEdge in 2020, initially as a YouTube channel, headquartered in Kensington, Maryland. Yeah, that's kind of true. They've raised roughly $7 million in venture capital to date and employ 25 people. We do. While Zach Shefska runs the company, his father, a 43-year industry veteran, films CarEdge's YouTube and TikTok videos. Automotive News reporter Mark Holmer talked with Zach Shefska about AI agents and how consumer shopping online for a vehicle can benefit from them. Here are edited excerpts from their conversation. All right. You ready, Pops?
Yeah.
How would you describe your technology? The answer from me. We've built agentic AI to reach out to dealerships on behalf of a customer and negotiate to a target price set by that customer. How does it work? Imagine you want to buy a car, but you didn't want to deal with the dealership. You could now have an AI agent talk to the dealership on your behalf, handle all the communications for you, negotiate for you, and alert you when the deal is ready. Then you go in, sign the paperwork, and take your new car home. How does the AI know how to negotiate? We've spent the past 6 years at CarEdge teaching people how to negotiate. We train the model on how we want it to negotiate with users, then have some controls over that as well. And then we set a target price. We provide a recommendation to the user. They can modify that, and then they let it go. Can you give an example? Let's say I want to buy a car, a fuel-efficient vehicle that is not an SUV. You could use CarEdge, Car Search to identify vehicles that you're interested in. And then you would click negotiate for me. In doing that, you'd be prompted to create an account. Once you create an account, you'd be prompted to pay the $40 to access the agent. Then you would name your agent. It defaults to using your name, but you can change the name if you'd like. You would then set the target price, and it defaults to a quote. CarEdge thinks you should pay for that vehicle based on thousands of transactions that we're seeing each day. What comes next? Ultimately, you would let your negotiation begin with the agent running. You might find another 3, 4, 5, or 10 vehicles on the car search you're interested in. Instead of pressing submit my info as a lead to the dealer and then getting phone calls, you're just having your AI agent do it for you. The AI agent speaks to the sales agent via the web or the sales agents. Not sure what I meant there. It submits the lead on the dealership websites. The AI agents are human to respond. I mean, this is a pretty cool article, man.
And it's a wonderful article, but what's really wonderful about it is it allows people to shop for a vehicle and not invest any of their own time until it's time to go pick it up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Man.
I mean, that's really the concept, and the wonderful thing about it is that you still have total control over your life as the AI to do whatever the hell it is you want to be doing, as the AI agent is busy negotiating a car deal for you, so that you can be at soccer practice with your kids. You can be picking your children up from school. Whatever it is, your life continues while you're shopping for a car. But this unemotional, available 24/7 agent is there working on your behalf. So it allows customers to control their life while their artificially intelligent agent, their agentic AI agent, is busy working on their behalf. It's pretty remarkable. I mean, it certainly isn't anything I thought I'd see in my lifetime. But then again, I didn't even understand what the hell the internet was or a computer was until the late 90s. So
yeah, it's
there
pretty
you
cool,
have it.
man.
Yeah.
Rich said it. It's your AI versus the dealer's AI. Welcome to the future. Absolutely crazy, folks. Anyway, so I wanted to share that. Thanks again to Automotive News for writing a story about what we're up to. We appreciate everyone who's been supporting.
I'm up to about 5'6" on a good day.
There you go. 43 years old and 5'6".
No, I wish I was 43 years old. You just took 31 years off my life.
Absolutely. Well, I don't want to take any years off your life, Pop. Hopefully you live happy, healthy life for many more years to come. Anyway, folks, check out CarEdge.com, CarEdge.com/AI if you are interested in the AI negotiator. And Dad, I had so much fun today. Let's do it all again tomorrow.
You know what? I'm willing. I'll be back here tomorrow at noon Eastern, and hopefully you'll be sitting in front of that mountain you hope to climb someday.
Indeed. I'll be back here, Pops. I love you.
Love you too. Thank you, everybody, for being here today.